What's he smoking?
Hey guys, welcome back to We Watched the Movie. I'm Mike.
I'm Jay.
And this is Halloween Horror Month 2020. We have a special one thanks to our buddy Kyle, who sent us the Halloween 2 novelization and a most excellent unboxing a few weeks back. Thank you for that, man. We're here to talk about the Halloween 2 novelization by Jack Martin. That's a strong name.
It was weird. When I was reading the novel, I was like, this sounds familiar. I think I've seen this movie before. Yeah. It turns out I did. It was Halloween 2. It's so weird.
More so than the first novelization. If you remember, we did that video. I'll link it down below, by the way. The novelization of the first Halloween movie had all sorts of extra subtext, all sorts of extra stuff to it. This one, really, for the most part, especially the dialogue, goes dead on the movie. I mean, it's literally piece by piece. The characters are the same names. They say the same things. But what we're here to talk about today is the differences between this novel and the book, and there are actually a few big ones, even if it's not as much.
Well, the existential stuff that they focus on, the inside narrative of Dr. Loomis and Laurie Strode herself specifically, are what makes the novel a little different than the actual movie, because you get to hear the thoughts and realize those in a text versus what they were able to film. And Loomis is a mean motherfucker. I'm just gonna say that straight off the bat. Like, he was a lot more mean than I thought he was. Because in the movies, you kind of like, you know, he's like, oh God, God, like that. But he was like that way. He's like, I want to take Michael to rip his ass up, and like he's talking about like literally talking when Michael Myers was like a little boy, ripping open his chest and stuffing his fucking heart down his goddamn throat, then pulling out his entrails and reading him his future. Like,
we've all worked retail.
Rob Zombie, what have you done here?
Specifically at one point when she goes to the hospital, and again, the dialogue, the actual spoken words are the same, but it's what they're thinking, what Jack Martin says that the characters Loomis and Laurie are thinking. And specifically one scene when Laurie's in the hospital and she's like, don't put me under, diazepam or whatever the fuck it was.
Diazepam.
They put her under, and they accidentally put her under too much, and she starts to have this dream. I don't know if she's dying or if she's just fucked up and asleep, but she literally starts like floating like above Haddonfield in her dream. And that's when you get into the subtext, because you know Halloween 2 is when they actually initialized the idea that she was actually Michael's brother. So they tie it in right at the time when Loomis is at the school and they're seeing Salwin on the board, and Loomis is being right before Loomis is told that they're brother sister, while Laurie is under back at the hospital. She starts flying above Haddonfield and going through this deep dream state, and she's talking to Michael.
Yeah.
At first, she's in the car and she's in the back seat and she's talking to her parents, and she's holding a doll, and she refers to the doll as Mikey, and it's got these crystal blue eyes, which is what she says Michael has every time she saw him. She's like, he has these ice blue crystal eyes. She remembers her brother there. And then, like Jay said, that she mentions her parents beating her. The only 2 times she ever got spanked was when she mentioned Michael's name. And then she goes even further to be like, Michael, you know what we're doing all this for you. Whether we know it or you know it or not, maybe that's why you punished us. You punished our family for speaking out. You punished us for saying things because even you didn't want it to be spoken. There's this whole deep subtext between her remembering what it was like to be Michael's sister. And it's pretty fucked up, honestly.
Very existential. Like, again, like it makes you like pull apart, and you can see their mind, which is always good about a novelization of any kind of popular film or anything, because you can actually see inside of them and what they're actually thinking and feeling in that moment, and you can't capture them on film at all. And they do a great job of doing that in this. Now, the book itself reads a lot like. At first I was like, this is some Shakespearean shit. It was almost like too overdrawn. It was too descriptive at some point. It was like Stephen King is having a fucking nutting session right now, because he does the same shit. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's like sometimes, you know, less is better there, Mitch.
At the beginning, though, he does paint an awesome picture.
Well, he does, but it's still less is better, because it was almost like, I know what fucking autumn leaves look like, bitch. You don't have to describe every vein in detail to me. I know what Halloween means, but he does do a good job of setting the scene and painting what you're looking at or what you're imagining when you're reading the novel. But I thought it was funny, though, that they focused a lot, and I was pleasantly surprised. They didn't just focus a lot on Laurie Strode, which I thought it was going to be on Laurie Strode. They focused a lot on Loomis himself and what Loomis feels and the obsession that he feels and the almost like madman desire to bring him down. And and you can tell based on the narration that's going on inside of Loomis when he was like, when he understands that this has consumed his life. Like, everything about Michael Myers has consumed his life, and he's like, I should have known then what I know now, but I couldn't believe that this little kid was responsible for this thing. And I also love how it does go on to say that, you know, you can't track Michael Myers. And again, this is Loomis thinking. He was like, Michael Myers is a single entity. He has a single purpose, and whatever dark spirit resides in him tells him when to move and how to move and what to do, so you can't track him. You can only be a little step ahead of him, maybe, if you figure out the pattern. And like, when they were at the school and the Sam Hain thing was wrote on the board, they were like, one of the Hunt sheriff or Deputy Hunt was like, "Can he write?" And he was like, "Why not?" Like in the thinking that Dr. Loomis has, is like, why not? I mean, maybe because he doesn't. He's always shocked and surprised at what Michael can do.
They go further on that too, because he's like he wowed everybody that worked at the hospital, because he literally didn't do anything. Like, he was completely docile. They would have to move him to do everything that they needed him to do. Everybody was freaked out about him. They touch a little bit on what it was like with Loomis and him at the hospital. And Loomis even has a soliloquy there where he was like, "I do wonder when I look at Hunt what my life would have been like had it not been for Myers." But there are little extra details too, like Loomis smokes in this. He doesn't smoke.
I noticed that too when he was like fucking lighting up cigarettes. Like, what the shit?
Yeah,
I was like, who gave you that script? That must have been the rough draft, because I didn't know that.
And I wonder if it's like a cut scene in the movie or whatever, because in the movie you have that classic scene where he has the dude's lighter, and the guy's like, "No, keep it." And
he just like, fingers the lighter.
Yeah, obviously that's the lighter Loomis has in his trench coat when he burns Michael and himself up at the end.
But I do remember in the novel they were talking about when Marion comes to snatch him up, be like, "Hey, Dr. Loomis," he's like, "Fuck you." But no, he's like, "Oh, what?" And takes him on the hallway to talk to him about specifically what's going on. He said he wishes he had a cigarette, but he wasn't going to ask her. He's like, "I'm not going to ask her. I'm not going to ask her. She's probably smoking menthol."
Loomis
I don't smoke that shit.
the fuck out of everybody, especially Brackett. When Loomis's personal thoughts toward Brackett are hilarious, because when he's talking to him, he's like, "Of course this country fucking bumpkin doesn't understand what I'm doing here. How could he? He's a fucking idiot."
The thing about Loomis's introspection and like what he's thinking the entire time, he's like, "Yeah, look, I had acid last night. I don't know what to tell you, okay? I've got a lot of deep thoughts going on. Okay, I look at the stars, I see Michael Myers' face, I hope he dies." But it gets really weird. Like, it gets to a point where he's talking about destiny and fate, which makes sense in some ways, that he's always been tied to these people in Haddonfield, even though he'd never been there until that night, when especially with the Hunt thing you mentioned, that was there at 16, when he was 16 years old, and he knew that Michael Myers had butchered his sister, that it all comes back together. But it's really fucking like, I don't know, like you had gone out with a couple of Native Americans and done some peyote, and then they took you on a spiritual journey. It was really like deep, and you're like, oh shit, like I think you're tripping real hard, man. And Laurie is different though, because Laurie actually, it's more of a grounded like understanding that she was beat. Like, again, I can't stress this enough. She was literally beat by her parents.
Well, so only twice.
Well, it was still but the way that she described it, she was beat, like fucking knocked the shit out of when she mentioned Michael Myers, and he had been a terror in her life, because I guess her parents, her real parents, not the Strodes, the real parents were like, what he had done was so heinous and so horrendous. They didn't want anything to do with Michael Myers. They didn't want anything to do with their own son. And every time it was brought up, little Mikey, and it wasn't Danny Trejo, it was Laurie Strode that was saying this.
I was good to you, Mikey.
Yeah, would slap the shit out of her or whatever they did, to a point where she was regressing memories and not having anything to do with him. And again, she thanks him, because she's like, now I'm going to use the same skills you taught us to keep me secret and safe. I'm not even going to utter a word when I'm scared, and I'm going to do the same thing you are going to do. So if you want to kill me, you got to hunt me, bitch. And like, it's really cool, and it really makes you wish that in some of these movies that you could have like those bubbles pop up, or just not like in a comic book, but have those like somebody have a voiceover, so you can hear and see the reaction.
Of course, they did it in 2018, and people hated it. She's like, I remember my childhood in the basement of the Wonder House.
I think if it's done well, I think it's a really good thing. But dude, the novelization, I'm actually shocked at how much I had a good time reading it, because I did look I like any little iota of detail that you get to expand on the Michael Myers universe or the Halloween universe is great, and it's awesome, it's fun. But I didn't think that I was going to have that much of a good time, because some of it does read exactly like the movie, and you're like, well, I could just watch the fucking movie. But there's so much more going on in it that you're like, oh, I'm glad I'm reading it.
There's fucking layers, and the layers are in the most important parts. Like the little tiny stuff that happens in between, like the kid with the razor blade, it's pretty much text to book. Like, it's the exact same shit that you saw in the movie. But the deeper stuff, the Loomis, the Laurie stuff, at one point I find it really interesting that when she remembers Michael, right? Because the way that we're introduced into Halloween in the beginning of the movie is he's just a normal, we all just saw him as a normal kid, perfectly normal suburban life, nothing wrong, snaps, nobody knows why. But she mentions it when she's thinking about her dreams, she's like, I remember sleepwalking.
That was scary.
Yeah, I remember him sleepwalking, and I was just sleepwalking, and because I guess they took her to the mental institute to see him. No. And she's like, "You're sleepwalking again." No, so he was fucked up as a kid too, apparently.
Yeah, well, no, when she was when I think it was I thought it was when he was living with them. She said behind but the closed bedroom or the open bedroom door, she would see a ghost walk back and forth.
Right, but it was just him.
But it was him.
Yeah.
So she had this deep, regressed memory. Again, I'm gonna say regressed.
And it was both, because when they took her to the mental hospital and she saw like these docile people walk by her,
Yeah.
she would be like, "That reminds me of when I was a kid," and he was.
I'm not lying, dude. I got like some fucking Conjuring thing because she was like talking about it, and she was like, when I was a little girl, and I remember this ghostly figure walking back and forth, in my doorway. A repressed memory. I'll say repressed now, but like I remember doing it, like, and it reminded me of like something like a fucking like Conjuring moment where you remember, the character would close their eyes and you would just see the shadow, like with white. Clothing on, little boy going,
yeah, ooga boogas.
And then she said he had ice blue chipped eyes or whatever, and that they always terrified her. Which it's funny because I thought Tony Moran had some duty brown eyes.
It did remind me though in 2018, how when they took the one eye out, the other eye's like cable fucking bright.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of ties. I wonder if the 2018 people were playing on that a little bit.
I loved it though, man. Like I gotta tell you, man, this novelization is really goddamn good.
If you're a huge Halloween fan, you'll dig the shit out of getting a read of it. Even though it not only does it recap the first movie or the second movie, but it actually recaps in detail the ending of the first movie too. I mean, in like almost strenuous, annoying detail. But one more tiny thing that happened, or two tiny things that happened. One,
you said it was a good size.
When Michael walks through the glass.
Oh, dude,
that
great.
badass scene in the movie where he just walks through the glass. They add some explanation to that because when Loomis is standing there, he shoots at Michael at about the same time Michael walks through the glass, and Loomis thinks to himself, he's like, I don't know if I shot the glass
or
at the same time Michael walked through it, or if he just powered through it. So if you watch Halloween 2 and you're wondering to yourself, how can he just like, he's not going fast. He's just like,
it's like those kids that don't know that the plexiglass is in front of them. They just hit it. They're like, oh.
Maybe Loomis shot the glass and that's why it broke so perfectly as Michael walked through. That's such a badass scene to see Michael do that I don't know if you like that or not. But it provides some explanation if you're wondering how he did
it almost makes me feel like I just want the movie version to be real.
Yeah.
I like the idea that motherfucker pounded through like a Disturbed video. Like, I don't care.
I like it better.
I like it like in the movie version.
But if you're a detractor of that moment, there's your explanation right there. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about, the only big scene that actually happened in real life that wasn't a soliloquy in someone's mind was there's a death in the book that's not in the movie. The reporter.
Oh yeah.
That is it's like a whole chapter.
It makes you wonder why it wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
It's fucking done well.
Yeah, dude, sounds fucking awesome.
I know. I thought it was a great scene.
This reporter, who's kind of a bitch,
April O'Neil.
She's totally a bitch. Yeah, she's basically April. Shut it, O'Neil. She goes up. She's trying to get down to the bottom of the case. She's like, I don't care what happens. If this makes my career, I'm happy to do it. Long story short, she's kind of bitchy. She ends up with a flat tire on the side of the road. And she ends up in this car, and this redneck gets out of his car to stop, and he's like trying to feel her up, and he's
the whole
like,
scene
I'll
is
fix
great.
your tire, I'm gonna fuck you, right? And she's like, no, get away from here. So he leaves, but he leaves his, and it's kind of confusing because he leaves his beer, right? So initially when she ends up with a flat tire, she pops open her trunk, and they describe exactly what's in her trunk, and one of the things in her trunk is covered up with a sheet. And she even says, she's like, God knows what that is. Doesn't even think about what's underneath that sheet. She gets the tire
a serial killer's on the loose.
Yeah, obviously. And then they continuously play that through the radio. It's like, another news bulletin. Michael Myers.
I like that whole thing, but it was like, you would have thought, like, I'm going to check every fucking thing.
Yeah, she doesn't look under the sheet at all. The redneck comes up, he leaves his beer there, and when she shoos him away, like, get out of here, you dirty fucking redneck, stop trying to fuck me. She's like, oh wow, he took his beer with him. That's weird. I didn't see that. The beer just disappeared. And then right then she goes to move the blanket to get something else. And the shape and the way they explain
I loved it.
badass.
I love it. They don't refer to him as him or he. They always refer to him as it. And even Loomis, when he's talking, he's like the one that he's searching for.
Might as well have been a big dick.
Yeah, it's a big one. Look, every girl's looking for that. Like,
But
where can I find that? It.
The shape elongates and it like pops up underneath this blanket, and it's like all of a sudden you see the white of her throat pop up, and then it, like quicker than any camera could catch, slices her throat.
I like to think of Michael when he gets up and he's like standing up like fucking, goddamn Scottie Pippen at the free throw line. He's like, you drive like shit. But yeah, dude, that was a great scene. I don't know why I don't know if that was actually going to be in the movie and they cut and that's what he was basing it on the script, or he just made it up. But it was a great fucking scene. I also like I really did like the part, and again, they played Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis did such a great job. Anyway, in the very final act of the movie, when they're in with the oxygen going and he blows Michael up. But I did like in the novel that you hear Loomis's thoughts because he's holding Laurie's face and he's like, the narration that's going on the inside of Loomis is basically saying like, and all the best things of humanity was represented in this young girl's face at that moment, and everything that he swore to protect, like holding her face. He's like, so he would not fail her no matter what, and then he had to make the ultimate sacrifice at that moment. He knew what he had to do. And I love it.
I can't allow it. I won't.
I'm gonna save you, even though you're stupid and you got yourself in this situation. Hero, and he sees Lori at that one moment, in that one scene when he's holding her head or her face in his hands, and like in just that moment he understands like everything he's ever fought to protect in humanity is there, and Michael is the antithesis of humanity. He's what what you're afraid of in the dark, the under your bed thing. He's like wants to destroy whatever's good. And I loved it, dude. It really actually was a really pretty scene because it actually painted like the hero going out like this is the only way to do it. I can't stop Michael one-on-one, but I can take him out.
And he's absolutely dead, by the way, at the end of this novel too. There is no Halloween 4 coming in the future because at the end of the movie, at the end of the novel movie, the ambulance workers literally take out Loomis in a body bag, and they're talking shit. They're like, God, they stink, don't they? Yeah. And they're like, well, this guy was burnt to a crisp. He's for sure dead. And they're like, what about the other guy? Because there was two of them, Michael and Loomis, who died in the fire. And they're like, well, the other guy they haven't found anything of, but he's probably in so many pieces scattered apart.
Say he's blown to smithereens.
Yeah, they'll never put him back together again. So you have to assume that the one the one in the body bag is Loomis. So he's dead and gone forever at the end of this novel. There is no Halloween 4 possibility whatsoever because he's dead in the body bag, pulse checked, all that shit. And then they never found Myers, but they just assumed he was blown to such smithereens that he was gone forever. See, and they never explained which one's which. Actually,
that's why I thought Michael was the one in the body bag, and the other one was Loomis blown to smithereens.
You could do that, technically.
Because, I mean, if you look at Michael...
Because Michael could come back to life from the body bag.
Michael is fucked up. Like, he's got nasty-ass hands. Like, he's been working on tractors all goddamn day long. Yeah. And he's got all fucking burnt hands. Yeah. So I thought that Michael was in the body bag.
You can look at it either way.
And then Loomis was blown away. Like, they didn't find him until way later on.
Yeah, man, I guess Loomis would have been, like, in the bush somewhere, like, fuck, somebody come help me,
you know that scene in Darkman when he gets blown away, where they break into his lab? He's like, ah! And he gets blown away from the building, and he lands in water.
Either that, or he like crawls away. He's like, I don't need no goddamn doctor.
Yeah, I think he's like, goddamn.
He self-healed back at back at his house.
Thank God the Haddonfield Lake was close by. It blew me right into it. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Overall, it's such a great novelization of a great movie. Overall, I'm honestly surprised. I'm shocked because I thought it was the way it started. I like the rhyming, the children's rhyme and all that shit. That was cool. But then it got really overblown and overwinded, and I was like, and then it got good. When we got to Loomis and we got to Lori and about what they're feeling and what's happening with them in the moment, I was like, man, it's actually pretty goddamn good. And me and Mike are fucking lovers of Halloween and anything associated with Halloween or the backstory of Halloween.
A nugget, a new nugget.
I like it. Did this come from inside the jack-o'-lantern? But yeah, we love it. So I mean, again, what Mike already suggested, if you're a huge fan of Michael Myers or anything of the mythos of Michael Myers, then you'll love the novel. Now,
it can be found online, by the way.
Yeah. Scribd.
We
need a new sponsor. Hey, Scribd. Yeah. What's up? But no, I liked it, man.
Again, thank you, Kyle, so much for sending us this, so that we could do this video for you guys in Halloween Horror Month. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And Justin Bland sent us someone more, so thank you, Justin Bland.
Could you imagine if they did a Halloween 5 novelization?
I would read all of them.
No, I would too, but it was like if Loomis was having a moment to himself, he was like, ever since I looked at her, I never had a cookie. Cookie woman was the worst thing ever happened to me.
It'd be funny to hear him talk about Jamie. He's like, this little bitch would not fucking speak.
She kept on saying something about a cookie woman and made me even more hate
He's
cookies.
fucking controlling it, I know it.
Let me tell you something. Cookies are only good with milk.
Oh, and one more tiny thing, by the way, for fans that know, there is an extended cut of Halloween 2 where Jimmy is a person in the ambulance and he survived his fall.
Oh yeah.
I know that there's a cut of that where you imagine that him and Lori lived happily ever after. In this, you have to assume he's dead because when he falls on the blood, they literally say his skull cracked open.
Yeah.
So if his skull cracked open, he's not going to be driving an ambulance an hour later.
You ain't going to be going nowhere. By the way, not to mention the fact that Jimmy comes off as no less stalky and weird in the novel as he does in the movie.
But she likes it.
Because she's fucking doped up. She doesn't know what's going on. This guy's like basically taking advantage. It's like a fucking date rape drug thing going on. He's like, hey, I'll take care of you. He's like, I loved his face.
You want me to get you a coat? You want me to show you my dick?
I think I still hold to this day Jimmy is the true villain of the movie.
His little fucking afro. Looked like Steve Gutenberg.
He looked a little like Steve Gutenberg.
Thanks again, Kyle. Thank you guys for hanging out with us Halloween Horror Month. Don't forget to subscribe to get more shit like this. Tons. We got the Halloween 4 script. We got all sorts of crazy shit that didn't make it to the fucking screen about Halloween on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell, get all that new shit. Hope you guys are having a great Halloween Horror Month. I know we are deep in the butt cracks. We love your fucking faces. If you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button and get some goddamn wham up in you.
October Shocktober, it's gonna be a good time. Keep on tuning in. We're gonna keep on giving you some bad shit. Lick a butt. I got a fucking gnat in my soda.
What are you gonna do on October 31st?
What are you gonna do on October 31st?
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you wanna know about the darkness?
I said, God damn.
God damn you, Michael!
I said, God damn.
A lot of people don't know the darkness that goes inside their hearts.
I said, God damn.
God damn you, Michael! What are you gonna do on October 31st?